All right, approval of minutes. Any moves, adds, or changes to the minutes? Any corrections? Any moves, adds, or changes? Hearing none, we'll move on from that portion of the agenda and consider the minutes approved. Public comment. Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Last call for public comment. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the business portion of our agenda. Financial report for July of 2025. Dustin.
Thank you, Chair. As you see with the next agenda item, our 2024 audit is finalized. So those 24 numbers are final. We had no major changes in the admin departments. All of them finished in the black, which is great news for 24. 25, we're tracking the same way. We don't see any major issues at this time. If you go to the admin tax report page, we had good news in the May sales tax. As you can see, is 1.5 million, a very big month. I don't know if it was some accounting errors from the month before or what it was, but we're, again, tracking on target to meet the budget for sales tax. Is there any other questions on the financials? All right, thank you.
And thanks, Dustin. Appreciate that. We'll move on to number 2, presentation of 2024 audit report. We got Jonathan Sherwood. Jonathan.
Thank you for having me this evening. So yeah, again, my name is Jonathan Sherwood. I'm a principal with Clifton Larson Allen. I'm responsible for not only the field work, but all the facts, figures, and everything that goes into the financial statements. So I just want to start off my presentation tonight with just a very gracious thank you to all the county staff that myself and all my engagement team interact with in order to pull together the nice 70-plus page audit report. Not only that, the compliance report with the single audit that we do as well, and then everybody that's separately involved with the separate audit of the healthcare campus. So there's a lot of work that goes into it from our side and a lot of scrambling behind the scenes, I'm sure, with the county staff. So anybody that we interact with at the county has been very prompt in their responses and getting all the information that we need in order to compile your financial statements. So again, thank you very much from that standpoint. I'm going to try to keep my overall comments pretty high level, but if there's anything that you have any questions, please feel free to stop me as I go along. We obviously have the experts in the room here too, if there's something that's just not right off the tip of my tongue here for us as well. So to start my comments for you, we do have a nice audit report summary, 6-page summary, so I'll spare you from having to flip pages back and forth of our 70-plus page audit report. Overall, the audit opinion, when it comes to the actual assurance from an outside independent auditor that we place on the financial statements, that's actually only maybe like 5 or 6 pages total in your full financial statements that actually truly belong, quote unquote, to CLA. The rest of the financial information is, the property, the records of the county finance system itself. So in terms of the audit opinion that we grant across all of the facts, figures, disclosures, we issue what's known as an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance from an outside agency. That's kind of what we're striving to be able to achieve, and very pleased to say that we're able to, issue that opinion unit over financial statements. As part of our audit work, we also take a look at the internal control structure of the county in its entirety. And if there's anything that raises to the level of concern, we're obligated from professional standards to bring it up in a meeting such as this. So we do issue what's known as 2 material weaknesses. These 2 items are very common. They should be very familiar with yourselves here because they are repeat findings from prior year as well. So the 2 material weaknesses that we issue are some material audit adjustments as well as limited segregations of duties. So the material audit adjustments, what that basically means is if we, through the course of our audit work, we found some adjustments that if they had not been made, they would have potentially impacted the reader of financial statements in their decision-making abilities. The primary audit adjustments that we normally come across entirely has to do with the grant reconciling, making sure that the proper grant revenue is recognized in the proper period. So it was either brought back into 2024 from 2025, or maybe just a receivable was booked after the fact. And that's very common, again, in our work. In 2024, we proposed a whopping 26 entries. 2023 it was actually 23 entries. And again, it's usually just in order to get those compliance reporting correct. In terms of the limited segregations of duties, it has to be through the entire transaction cycle, so even in across all departments. So even if you have some, temporary employees here or there that have cash handling, or there's the same person that's doing the actual transacting is also doing the review and the approval of that transaction cycle, that's when you have a segregations of duties issue. Both of these findings are very common. Again, I want to stress that over and over for you. They don't raise to a level of a giant red flag of saying, you need to make drastic changes to your system. Very common for in entities such as St. Croix County. And usually it comes down to it's not economically feasible to completely eliminate every single finding that we have for you. The next item I want to just briefly discuss is, again, because there is federal funding involved at the county level, you're required to do what's known as a federal single audit. Again, that's a compliance over the various federal programs, and then there's some state components that go along with it as well. So we're happy to report there were no federal compliance findings across any of the programs that were selected for testing. There is also what's known as a data collection form. That filing is still in process. We're actually just finalizing that as well, and that'll be completed by its deadline of September 30th. Got that noted here in a little bit for you as well. Other than that, there are a couple other things that we, as I mentioned earlier, that we do also help assist the county with. One of them is the healthcare campus that is actually audited completely separately, and then it's brought into the full county audit. This year, I will note that DHS, in their infinite wisdom, did update and add to some of the compliance disclosures that were needed. And it's kind of interesting for you, just to keep you fully aware of the situation. DHS put these compliance requirements in place for a lot of the privately owned kind of like corporations that were out there. Well, municipally owned nursing homes kind of got caught up in the web. I'll say it for you that way. They were asking for a lot more compliance things that, had their original interpretation been out there, would have given them a lot more information and a lot of additional work at the county, the full county-wide reporting entity. So CLA worked with DHS and some of the other various public accounting firms in order to kind of scale that back for them. So long story short, if you look at your healthcare campus audit report from this year and compare it back to 2023, there's a lot of additional schedules in there, and that's as a result of these DHS changes. So a big thank you to Faye and that whole team out there in order to help weed through and sort through all that additional compliance work that we needed to do. And we were obviously happy to say that that's all been taken care of, and those filings have been made as well. Lastly, in terms of the other things that we have taken care of, there's an unaudited financial report form that's due in in May. The audited version of that was then completed along with the issuance of the audit here in July. And then the federal single audit, which I mentioned earlier, that filing is still in process, just working on getting that reporting package uploaded. And then finally, we assisted the healthcare campus with the Medicare and Medicaid cost reports this year as well. There were a couple of new accounting standards, which we also assisted in, and I'll highlight those at the very last page when it comes to long-term debt as well for you. Now just to dive into some financial information here overall, just the financial performance of 2024. We prepared a 4-year summary here, and the general fund is the first item here. This is just your general operations of the county. Some other activity is designated elsewhere and required to be tracked separately, but this, for all intents and purposes, is the general operations of the county. The balance sheet figures here, again, as a reminder, these are just snapshots in time. This is all general fund or balance sheet items as of 12/31, so the end of the year. And if anything really jumps off the page here in terms of the trend, I would point it out for you at this point. But really the change overall from 2024 through 2021, nothing really major is jumping off the page saying, here's a giant explanation as to why these numbers changed. So really what I'll dive into here is just kind of the overall financial results of 2024 and skipping down to that fund balance area. We've got just three shaded or highlighted rows for you. So it's basically the ability to compute this ratio so you can compare the operations of St. Croix County to another municipality, regardless of size, essentially. So we take a look at the unassigned fund balance, which again, that is your true unassigned reserves, your carryover from one year to the next. So you can use this fund balance to meet the maybe unexpected operations of a future period. We compare that to what the total expenditures or what it took to basically run the government or run the county for the fiscal year 2024, compute that ratio of 47%. So you've got 47% of general operations set aside in a reserve account. The county does have a board policy of 25 to 35% is what the goal range is supposed to be, or that should be. So you're clearly meeting that overall goal, which is a positive result. From an outside independent auditor standpoint, we usually say that target should be anywhere between 33-45%. And we have been noticing the last number of years that your unassigned fund balance, or most unassigned fund balances, have been kind of creeping up on the greater side of that range. And that's primarily due to a lot of the federal funding that is still flowing through some of these government programs due to ARPA, COVID funding, and that sort of thing. Those reimbursements are still hitting out there, and with that, that spend down is now gradually coming in. So your fund balance is starting to come back down into that 25 to 33% range of what we would expect. Very positive results. Again, you basically kind of want to have that cushion out there in order to prevent things like short-term borrowing needs. It gives you the financial flexibility to meet any capital items, so you can kind of self-finance for some of those capital projects. And then in the event that you do need to go out and borrow, that would lead to more favorable borrowing rates or borrowing terms. The board policy, again, does go on to state that if there's any excess funds that exceed the 35% of what your board policy states, that those balances shall remain unassigned pending board action or final approval if there would be any need to transfer any of those excess funds into another fund or another activity, such as the KIP fund. And then the last thing I just want to point out there in the total expenditures line, it did increase. Obviously, your total expenses went from about $47.7 million in 2023. It increased just over $50.3 million into 2024. The total budget, it was actually a favorable budget variance across all of the activities in the general fund to the tune of about $147,000. So that's within 0.5% of what you thought you were going to budget for general operations. So overall, a very prudent budgeting. You're coming right into where you essentially thought you were going to start the year. So again, very favorable results in your general fund. Any questions on the general fund? Perfect. Next items I'll dive into for you here on page 3, item number 2, special revenue funds. These are all, again, separate activities of the county. They're set aside or tracked separately, and the revenue sources are set aside and must be used for these specific purposes. So that's the reason why they're tracked separately. The major item out there, one of the funds that has one of the greatest amount of activity that flows through it, is the Health and Human Services Fund. So again, these are year-end balances. Reserves or set-asides to be used for future purposes. The Health and Human Services Fund has a positive fund balance of about $4.2 million in reserves. In 2024, the total county levy that was used to support those activities was just over $8.3 million. So that is a slight increase overall in county levy that went in to support health and human services. Total of about $27.6 million of expenditures, but it did obviously have a positive fund balance or a positive change. Net income is another way to say that, of about $9,000. So again, kind of breaking even, coming in right where you kind of overall expected to come into for your health and human services fund. All the rest of the special revenue funds there are laid out. Again, those are just the reserves used to meet future future period obligations. When it comes to special revenue funds, there really isn't much to say on those from an audit perspective, unless you notice a giant downward trend, or if any of those would be negative, then you would have to probably take a look at those activities and see if there's anything that from board control or from a county control, can you increase the revenue going into there from charges for services, or potentially need to influx that with county levy dollars to address any of those deficits. Happy to report there was actually zero county levy that went into any of those remaining activities, and none of them are negative at the end of 2024. The only thing that minor of note is that Stop Drugs Fund, which was negative in 23. That activity is obviously closed out here in 2024, and going forward, that minor deficit was covered by a transfer in from the general fund. Item number 3 is the capital projects funds. So you do have one capital projects fund that's out there, is known as the KIP internally. And that's used to account for all of the major capital items, including the lovely redesign of this luxurious building we're in currently. In 2024, just over $39 million of expenses flowed through that KIP fund. Again, the major program was the General Government Center. And then there was some additional things of like various capital purchases like squad cars or major capital items like that. There was an additional $4 million transferred into that fund during 2024, which was approved by board resolution. Item number 4 here for us is the debt service fund. So the debt service fund is, by statute or by guidance, is just used to track and account for all of the debt service payments that are required during the year. So again, this 2024 balance of just over $562,000 is going to be used for future debt service payments. During 2024, there was about $7 million of principal payments that was accounted for, and just over $3.9 million in interest payments. So in total, about $10.9 million in debt service obligations flowed through the debt service fund. On the next page, you'll see some additional comments, or actually a couple of pages from now, excuse me. I'll highlight the rest of the long-term debt obligations for you. But before I get there, the item number 5 is these are what are referred to as enterprise funds or business type activities. So when we look at these funds, again, the accounting change in here, you will notice things like capital assets and long-term debt is directly in these financial statements. So for any business owners or more business-minded folks, this is quote-unquote normal accounting versus governmental accounting in the previous statements. I highlight that because when you look at the operational results or the change in net position, now we have to account for things like non-cash items like depreciation and that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to preface that up front, and then I'll explain it as I go along here for you. The first item here for you, the first capital or the enterprise fund that you have to report on is the healthcare campus. As I mentioned, that is audited separately. We issue a full-on separate audit report with all those required disclosures in there, and then we roll that into the county-wide financial statements. Again, the balance sheet snapshot in time, balances there are as of 12/31. And really the biggest thing that you're going to notice here in terms of the trend is actually a very positive trend for the healthcare campus. Direct operating cash and investments, you can see that is increased to by about $1.2 million over last year. And that is directly related to the overall operations of the healthcare campus in 2024. Strictly, that is, if you can point to one thing that is causing that positive operations for the healthcare campus, would have been the overall occupancy rate. From 2023 into 2024, occupancy increased by about 20%. So overall, you did have an increase in operating expenditures, but clearly that was more than made up for by the overall revenues coming into the healthcare campus. So very positive results in 2024. So if you look at that change in net position, again, net income of about $732,000, that again does include about $613,000 of depreciation expense. So that's working against that number. So that's non-cash, that's already the investments that have already been spent and made by the healthcare campus. So adding to that just over $1.3 million of current year positive operating results. The other business type activity that you have to report is your highway department. Again, this is all the services for the county or county-owned highways, as well as all the other work that's provided to the other municipalities in the area. Again, you have non-cash items. Here, the depreciation line, because there's so much more capital items in there, it does have an impact of about $2.1 million of depreciation expense that's hitting that bottom line of that change in net position. And you can see that as actually a negative in 2024. So it's just about a $439,000 loss. But again, included in that number is about $2.1 million of depreciation expense that's working against you as well in that fund. So overall, again, a minor, I'll call that a minor decrease due to the results or the operational results of your highway department. Overall, there wouldn't be any major concerns ongoing concern or anything like that for your highway operations. So again, fairly overall positive results, status quo for your highway department. Looking at page 5, again, this is our last items to really discuss here. Item number 6 is your internal services funds. So these are things like your liability insurance fund, your health insurance fund, et cetera. They provide the backup services for those specific purposes for county employees or other county services. The main funds that you really want to pay attention to here for sure as of late have been health insurance fund and then the retirement health savings fund, because obviously with the trend in healthcare costs going up, when it comes to budget times, you have to look at what your premiums that are being charged to those other departments are, weighing that against your insurance claims. I know that these funds are very highly monitored. Ken usually has a very good finger on the pulse of all things when it comes to your budget adoption period. So the very important thing to look at is just the trend overall of where are your reserves at. If you're on a ski slope down, there's some usually drastic measures that need to happen in terms of either increasing premiums or needing to subsidize these activities with levy dollars in order to support them. So positive results here overall because basically all of your fund balance is increased from 2023 into 24. The health insurance fund specifically was supported by a $1.5 million transfer in from the general fund. And then that retirement health savings fund had about a $300,000 transfer in, again, from the general fund. Lastly, but not least, is the long-term obligations. So the general obligation bonds and notes, just the various long-term debt that's outstanding, you're just over $114 million. You are limited in your borrowing capacity of about 5% of total equalized value. From a county level, you're never going to have to worry about meeting that 100% limitation. You'd be very unpopular politicians if that was the case. The borrowing capacity, normally you're roughly at 13% of what your statutory limit would be. From my perspective, a more highly leveraged municipality for a county would be somewhere between 25-35%. It would be a very highly leveraged county. You clearly are well below those limits. And as a matter of fact, in 2025, there was a subsequent issuance of general obligation notes, I believe, just about $7.5 million. So even factoring in that additional $7.5 million, you would be roughly at 13.8%. So again, very, very properly leveraged, about right-sized leverage from an outside perspective. And then the only other thing that I just want to highlight here for you in terms of your overall long-term debt is that compensated absences line. So that's your vacation sick leave. The only reason I bring it up is because there was a lot of additional work granted upon your auditors from GASB. They changed the rules of how we had to value all of those vacation sick leave. So that's the only reason that it increased significantly from 23 to 24 is they simply changed the definitions of when it became a true liability. So we are happy to say that the $6.9 million is now under what GASB 101, if anybody wants to do some late night reading. That's what is causing that change. Lastly but not leastly, page 6 here, just so you know, there is going to be some additional changes coming down the pipeline from the various GASBs. Specifically GASB 103 and 104, they are going to change the form and function of the overall audit report. There's going to be some additional disclosures, a little bit more clarity from their perspective in terms of what it means for the management discussion and analysis, which is the first probably 15 pages of your report. So just the overall audit report will change going forward, starting with the 26 audit. So, other than that, I can't really think of anything else than any other comments, and I ran out of my notes, which is a good thing. But if there's any questions or any other comments, I'm happy to address them for you tonight.
Are there any questions for Jonathan? Any questions, concerns? Any questions? All right. So with that, we appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Have a blessed night. Yep. All right. So next up, resolution authorizing fund balance transfer 2025. I'll turn that over to Administrator Witt.
So as you just heard, Jonathan ratted me out, told you that we have excess fund balance. So it's over our policy by about 4.5 million. So I'm allocating 4 million of that out, $3.5 million to the KIP and $500,000 to the debt service fund. So the KIP, that's our best use really at the end of the day. Any money that we can put towards capital projects where we don't have to borrow, you avoid the bond issuance cost, you avoid interest expenses, that's your best use. The debt service fund then, when you allocate money there, it provides me flexibility so I can tweak that tax levy rate by using cash in the debt service to bring the tax rate down. So that's my recommended uses for that.
All right. Is there a motion to bring this forward? Well, we need a motion of some type or it dies. So anyone? Bueller? All right. Supervisor Counter.
So where do we read it here? Thank you. So make a motion on the resolution authorizing the fund balance transfer for 2025.
All right.
As was stated by Administrator Witt.
All right, there's a motion to approve the resolution authorizing fund balance transfer for 2025. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Long. We are in discussion. Is there any discussion on this motion? Any discussion? Last call. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion is approved unanimously. All right, on to the next item, number 4, resolution amending 2025 budget and authorizing additional opioid funding for HHS Recovering Together Cafe or the RTC program. Administrator Witt, I'll turn this over to you.
Yeah, we've received some additional funding. I thought I had that in the background. Yeah, here we go. The settlement data. So just overall, big picture, what are we doing with the opioid settlements? How much have we gotten? How much are we going to get? So to date, we have a balance of $1.1 million. We've allocated basically 2 positions for that, which is good for 20 years. This is the cumulative of all the money that we expect to receive over that time. So we just got a new settlement in the Sandoz one. I actually don't know if that's a one-time payment or if that's multiple. They haven't actually given me a chart yet on it, but I know we're getting $83,000, and our request here is only for like $50,000. So I know we have the funds to cover it. And then there's all these other ones that are still in the works to be determined what those are going to be. So here you can see, here's what I was talking about, the 2 positions that we've currently allocated, and the new request then was $11,000 per year, $5,000 remaining for this year, so $60,000 total of allocation of the opioid funding. So as we said, the settlements, you've now given me authority to sign off on them, show a copy to the county board chair, but the spending of the money is still your jurisdiction. So we'll maintain, this data, and anytime we make changes to what our spending plan is, you are going to have the approval authority on that. So that's what this resolution is doing, is authorizing the $60,000 to be used for those recovering cafes. And HHS Director Bob Rohrt can explain what that recovering cafe is better if you have questions specifically on what that program is.
Yes, please.
Good evening. Recovering Together cafes are a thing that we looked at back in 2021 with the Family Resource Center in partnership with them. We used ARPA funding initially to start these. They're curriculum-based, recovery-oriented series of meetings that occur once a month. They're for people who are in recovery from mental health, addiction, other kinds of trauma, other kinds of things. And they're open to the public. They also provide childcare, and they're really intended for parents with young children who are interested in recovery and may not want to be formally involved in services. So they're allowed to come to these monthly, they sign up through a Family Resource Center, and then they can come to these monthly recovery meetings that are held, again, curriculum-based, and they're facilitated by peers, so parents who are trained in this curriculum, and by professionals who sort of are in the room. They don't necessarily facilitate the meetings as they go through them. They've been very successful over the last 4 years. The ARPA funding for them is expiring. It has expired, really. We've run out of ARPA funding. Family Resource Center is doing a presentation about these recovering cafes tomorrow at the HHS board. Again, they've been very successful in drawing families in, providing childcare, providing a meal, gas incentives so they can drive there. And other counties have tried this and haven't been as successful as we have been. And we want to keep this going. It's a nice way to offer an evidence-based recovery program for people without them formally being involved in services with us. We get about 10 to 12 families a month that take part in this, and some have since the beginning and keep coming back for it. It seems like it fits nicely with the opioid settlement, allowable expenses, and we thought this would be a nice way to keep it going for another few years.
Are there any questions for Bob while he's up there? Any questions? Okay, thank you. All right, with that, though, we do need some type of motion. Otherwise, it just kind of goes to the wayside. Yes, Supervisor Counter?
All right, I'll make a motion, the resolution amending the 2025 budget, authorizing additional opioid funding for Health and Human Services, Recovering Together Cafe, the RTC program, $60,000.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Supervisor Long. And we are now in discussion. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Long?
Just a clarification, I thought it was $5,000 for the 2025 budget.
Yeah, so the 2025 budget, we're only going to spend 5,000 this year.
Right.
The other 55,000 we'll spend over the next few years. So this resolution's kind of, it's amending the budget, but it's also saying, just so you know, we're going to keep it in the budget for the next 5 years and use the opioid funds for that. So, yeah, no, it is 60,000, but it's only, technically it's only 5 this year, which is the budget amendment. And that's what would require the supermajority vote at county board.
And basically what you're saying is future county boards aren't committed to the 60,000.
Correct.
Yep, okay, cool. Supervisor Shirley.
So looking at that chart from before, when Bob was up there, we have quite a large balance on the opioid money that we have already collected on. Do we have a plan on what we're going to use it for? Any ideas on future years and what we're going to do as we continue to get more and more money in?
Well, the 2 positions that we have are costing, $224,000 per year. And we when we started this, we said, well, we're good for the next 15 years on that. And that'll burn through actually most of that money, those 2 positions. Are there opportunities for other things? Yes. I don't necessarily want to just unleash Bob on that, but as the new monies come in, these to be determined amounts, yes, we're going to do something with those. And so as those dollar amounts come in, I'll give them a little bit more leash to come up with some new ideas. Sometimes he needs just a little bit of.
I'm assuming those funds are also regulated to what programs we can use them on, right?
They are, yeah, they're restricted use. Yeah.
All right, any further discussion?
I need a correction on that.
No, your motion's okay. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Resolution is approved unanimously. All right, next item. Number 5, resolution amending 2025 KIP budget for additional park improvement project. And I will turn this over to Administrator Witt.
Yeah, the Community Development Department, Jason and his team did a really good job in securing a grant that we hadn't originally planned for. So when they did the park development, we budgeted for the full amount, the $920,000 to do the project. So we thought it was all going to be tax levy fund balance to do that project. They wrote a grant, they got the grant in for $250,000. So it saved us a bunch of money. So Jason said, well, since I saved all that money, can I spend it still in the park on another building in there? I mean, it's sort of similar. I said, well, no. It's going to need county board approval. So it is reusing $200,000, still a fund balance because the other project was offset with the grant. But it's kind of rewarding his department too for getting the grant to bring it in. And this project will have some savings on ongoing maintenance cost because it'll replace porta potties that get pumped more often. I mean, it's like a 1,000-year payback if you looked at the capital cost. But it's a nicer facility. It's a lower operating cost, and it helps with the park improvements. So I would recommend it.
Jason, you want to come up and talk about what you guys are doing with that? Because the administrator reviewed it with me, and to me it makes sense, but I'd like to hear it from you.
Yeah, I can't really explain it any better than that. So on the peninsula side out at Glen Hills, which is the old part of the campground, we've only got electric to the campsites there. But that's where we built the new fourplex unisex ADA accessible shower building. And now we want to build a similar building. It'll be a Huff Cut prefab building or something similar to that after we go out to bid. But that would be on the day use side. So that would be near the Vista Prairie and Whispering Oaks campgrounds. Vista Prairie was the new campground that was just finished a couple of years ago. That's got 15 sites. It's already got a sanitary system there, a dump station that we would tie into. So there's not a lot of soft cost in that. With this building, it's mainly the building cost itself. And then we built 12 new campsites in that Whispering Oaks area just last fall into this spring. And so this bathroom building would be right in the middle between the two. It would serve all of them. And again, it would provide 4 shower facilities, flush toilets, and that would solve our need in that area for a building like this.
Okay, with Jason being up there, does anyone have any questions? Supervisor Long?
Were there any other considerations for the use of this 200 grand that, whether it be parks or other, just putting it back in the KIP, or just kind of curious if this was the only thing that was considered?
We don't have any other projects necessarily on the park side, but that would definitely be the board's other option, would be to take and use it for other capital improvement projects. The grant dollars, of course, have to be used towards the Glen Hills project, and those dollars have already been spent, yep.
Okay, we cannot discuss, but are there any questions for Jason while he's up here? Otherwise, we'll need a motion to put this forward so we can vote on it. Is there a motion on this? Okay, go ahead, Supervisor Sherwood.
I'll do a motion to approve amending the 2025 KIP budget for the park improvement project plan as presented.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second? Second by Counter. Discussion. Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion is approved unanimously. Thanks, Jason. All right, on to number 6, resolution approving 2026 to 2030 capital improvement plan. Dustin.
Thank you, Chair. This was initially presented at the Committee of the Whole last month, bringing it to the admin committee for approval now. So this is just approving the 2026 capital improvement budget. We do have 27 through 30 in there as well. But this just commits spending for next year. New items are highlighted in red. The new items, the total KIP spend for 2026 is $4,626,000. We have a grant predicted to cover 1.7 million of that. So the rest of the 2.8 million is coming from the fund balance in the KIP. Is there any questions on this at all?
Are there any questions for Dustin prior to making a motion? Okay, we do on this item as well need a motion. So Supervisor Long.
I'll take my turn. I move to approve the resolution approving the 2026 to 2030 capital improvement plan.
Motion by Long to approve the capital improvement plan. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Counter. Discussion. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the resolution approving the 2026 to 2030 capital improvement plan signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion is approved unanimously. Number 7, resolution to charge back municipalities due to incorrect real estate taxes. Denise.
So, yep, this is a parcel that was subdivided in 2023. And it's the parent parcel. It should have been retired for the 2024 tax roll. It was mistakenly left on the tax record, creating a double assessment. So once that was discovered, then I cut a check to pay that out of county money. And then this resolution just allows us to add that money or add that charge back to the levy in 2025. So we recoup it for next year. It's kind of a routine item. And this is the legal mechanism to make that correction.
Okay, so we need a resolution for $38.38. All right.
Yes,
I mean,
that's what the
it
statute
makes
says.
sense because we're adding it to recoup it, but wow, that is.
So, I mean, you know, when it's only $38, I mean, it seems like it's a waste of a resolution. And we haven't had one the last 2 years.
I was
But,
gonna say
I
it's
mean,
been a
in
while.
prior years, they could be 1,500, 2,000 or 3,000 we've had in prior years. So, I mean, it can be a bigger dollar amount. So we don't want to just say, okay, well, it's only 38, so we'll eat that.
Right.
If that's the process, it's the process. We're going to bring it to you.
Yeah, totally. And I find it funny, but at the same time, it's safeguards because you could have someone do 1 million of them, 1,000 of them, and yes. So, as funny as it is, we still need a motion. So we'll be looking for that. Is there a motion to bring this forward? Okay, Supervisor Shirley.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to charge back municipalities due to incorrect real estate taxes.
There's a motion by Shirley. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Long. Discussion. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Counter.
Just one question on, you've been in communication with the town, it looked like that was from the town of St. Joe.
Yes.
So
doesn't-
they know it's coming up.
Right, but the county paid it, and then we're just adding it on. It goes out, it's actually apportioned out countywide, so it doesn't affect them
Okay.
directly. Yep.
A thousandth of a penny or something. Okay, thank you.
All right, any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution to charge back municipalities due to incorrect real estate taxes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion is approved unanimously. Number 8, resolution amending compensation per diem, mileage, and expense reimbursement policy. So our good friend Audrey, you're going to not take it. I saw a head go back and forth. No, that's going to be Administrator Witt.
Oh, all right. Did I write Audrey down on that one?
You wrote Audrey down, and I was going off of it, and
Yeah.
shame on you, Ken. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, that is. No, it was me. So we did the survey. We talked about this last month. It's been, a good decade since these have been updated. So here is the recommendation I have. It's up to you what you want to do with it. But changing the chair from $750 a month to $1,000 a month, the vice chair from $300 a month to $400 a month. And then the meetings, changing from $75 to $125, each additional meeting from $25 to $50, and chair from $25 to $50. So, I mean, they may look like large percentage changes, but again, it's been a decade, so. And if you look at the comparable data, it still falls in line with the other data from other counties who are also looking at this, because I just talked to some other counties that were doing the same thing.
So the other counties are looking at raising theirs as we're bringing it to what they are now?
Yeah.
Well, let's at least take a step and not, crush this area of the budget or whatever. But it's, well, before we start discussing, are there any questions for the administrator Okay, so is there a motion to bring this forward? Well, I'll make the motion to approve the resolution amending compensation per diem mileage and expense reimbursement policy. And there's a second by Shirley. We're in discussion. Is there any discussion? Yep, go ahead, Supervisor Long.
I'd just like to make a comment because I've been kind of against this historically, so. But I think these changes really need to take place. I'll give you a good example of yesterday, the Transportation Committee met 8:30 in the morning in Baldwin, and then they had a second meeting here last night, which we all got to participate in for almost 3 hours. They got an extra $25 for that 3-hour meeting. That doesn't seem fair. No. So, and I've also been against adjusting the chair. But, in retrospect, I was thinking about what I've gone through the last couple of years, and I decided that it's probably justified, as well as the vice chair. Supervisor Fiedler has been a tremendous help to me and has filled in many, many occasions on a lot of things. So I think that is certainly justified as well.
Any further, Supervisor Shirley didn't even get it out and he had his hand up.
Maybe Ken, you can explain this, what was the justification of each additional meeting of the same day? Because when you talk about meetings like that where you have transportation and then you had the long meeting last night, or we have community development and another meeting that night, the hours that are spent on that, what's the justification behind not just doing them all at 125?
Yeah, and that's historically the way we've done it. So it's not my reasoning behind it. I think the scenario that Chair Long laid out is different than what it can be other times. So a lot of times we would have like a special admin right before the county board. So I mean, there it's a 15-minute meeting because it's a technical thing. We approve a debt resolution and then take it to the county board. So you get paid for the 2 meetings. So it probably varies. I mean, some of them it probably makes sense, and some of them, like yesterday, probably didn't make sense. I mean, you can get creative and do it any way you like, but it's up to you. They're your rules and your rates. So.
Do you have a suggestion?
Change of what?
You could just change it to every meeting. I mean, this is just language that was in there before. I didn't create this, so.
Right,
I'm not
yeah,
attached
I
to
thought
it.
it's been there for quite some time, so.
Hard thing is sometimes it is and sometimes it's not. So yesterday I think was a kind of an extreme example. I think more often it's, we have a half-hour meeting before a board meeting. So I'm okay with the way it's structured. I think in most cases it'll be appropriate, even though I know yesterday was a little strange situation. So,
And I'm going to just give my input on this, and I have a tendency to lean towards what Supervisor Shirley is saying, simply because even though those may be 15-minute or half-hour meetings, you still put time into a packet and reading it and making sure that you're ready for that meeting, even if it's just an admin meeting or a committee of the whole meeting and then another meeting. Those are usually, you know, you don't just walk into the meeting and vote. So, you know, we could just strike number 2 if someone wants to make a motion to do that. Supervisor Counter did have his hand up, so I'll call on you, Supervisor Counter.
The only thing as I was reading through it, that impacts the overall budget then of about 25,000 a year.
Yeah, I'd estimated about 30,000 with these changes.
30,000? Mm-hmm. So additional 30,000 a year.
Yeah, the change that you're talking about, going from that second meeting to the additional meeting, God, if that happens 10 times a year, I mean, that's probably about it. It's not a lot that we end up with double meetings. So, I mean, you know, thinking about it with yesterday's scenario in mind, I mean, I could definitely see either just it's one rate for all meetings or increasing that dollar amount. And then the other thing on the chair, again, I picked a number, but if you think about it too, the chairs, for chairing the meeting, it's not the extra work that Chair Burning is doing right now, it's the preparation meeting, because there's always a meeting, every standing committee does it, there's a meeting before the meeting to talk about what's going to be on the agenda. So it's really a whole extra meeting. But that's my input on the workload that's involved in those. The rates are up to you guys.
All right, way to pass the baton off on that one. Okay, so I'm actually going to make a motion that we take number 2, C, number 2, and we change that, the red, from 50 to 75. Mostly because, again, that's my motion to amend that.
I'll second that.
Okay, second by Chair Long. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Any discussion on the amendment? Any discussion on the amendment? I'm giving you an opportunity to. I'm good. Okay. With that, we'll call the question on the amendment. All those in favor of that being amended signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. That amendment is unanimous. We'll go back to the motion, which has been amended, C2, from $50 to $75. Discussion on the amended motion. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. The motion is approved unanimously. All right, on to number 9, resolution approving County Administrator 2024 to 2025 Work Plan Report and establishing County Administrator 2025 to 2026 Work Plan. And with that, I'll turn it over to Administrator Witt to talk through the work plan that was given to him.
Yeah, this is basically my performance evaluation that we sit here and do in public, which is fine as long as I'm doing a good job. So as I wrote it up, I am. But it was reviewed by Chair Long and Admin Chair Burning, and they agreed with it. So here it is in writing, and then really probably the more important point of it is what are our work goals for the next year? And it covers a variety of areas, budgeting and infrastructure and human resources. So. Any questions on it?
Yeah, are there any questions for the administrator about the work plan? Okay, with no questions, I'm looking for a resolution to approve it, or a motion, because there is a resolution. I need a motion. Supervisor Long.
Yes, I will move to approve the resolution approving the County Administrator 2024 through 2025 Work Plan Report and establishing County Administrator 2025 through 2026 Work Plan.
All right. We'll not repeat that, but There's a motion by Supervisor Long. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Shirley. Is there discussion on this motion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor of the motion to approve the resolution approving County Administrator 2024-2025 Work Plan Report and establishing the County Administrator 2025-2026 Work Plan signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion is approved unanimously. We'll move on to business item number 10, ordinance repealing and recreating Chapter 9, County Supervisory Districts and Nomination Paperworks. Administrator Witt.
Yeah, so when the county hits 100,000 in population, the number of nomination signatures required changes. And so let me go to the background memo. So currently the requirement is a minimum of 20 signatures. There's a maximum too of, I think, 100. So the new requirement, because we have now hit 100,000 and 28 people, I don't know who these 28 people are, but we are over 100,000. So the new requirement for the next election cycle is going to be 100 signatures minimum. The county has the option by ordinance to reduce that to 50. There is no picking a different number. It's these choices. So actually, it's two choices. It's 100 or it's 50. So those are your only choices that are available to you. So we're presenting that ordinance so that you can either say yes to it or you can say no to it, and that determines the number that'll be required on the next election cycle.
Or Corporation Counsel, are we able to put a sunset on this, or would we require another resolution to amend the ordinance?
What the statute indicates is that a county that enacts the ordinance to go to the lower 50 signatures, a county that enacts such ordinance may repeal the ordinance at a later date. So we just file ordinance repealing that section, and then it would increase back to the 100 signatures minimum.
But it would take action, not a sunset
Right.
clause.
You can't
Okay.
sunset it. We would have to bring it back before the county board.
Okay, and we'll need a motion to bring this forward, and I think I know who's gonna bring the motion forward, but I'll wait to see. Is there anyone that would like to bring this forward so we can discuss it? Oh, Supervisor Shirley, I was wrong. Okay.
I will make a motion to approve the ordinance repealing and recreating Chapter 9, County Supervisor Districts and Nomination Papers.
Okay, and a second by, motion by Shirley and a second by Long. Discussion. If you don't mind, I'd like to start discussion on this. So I was against this at first, realizing though that we are just entering 100,000. I think it's only just for us to allow current board members who have been used to getting 20, now 50 is a little bit easier of a lift to start. I think we should, however, look at this again in 2 years, because a county of 100,000 is different than a county with 80,000 or 50,000. I mean, it is now all of a sudden it is a completely different animal. And we have a $130 million budget that we are the board of directors of. So it's just a matter of, making sure that the people that are going to submit their name to sit in this position are serious about it. And I think that this coincides with what we just did with the compensation as well. So with that, I'll call on Supervisor Shirley.
That was a nice lead-in, thanks. My question for Corp Counsel is, we can't put a sunset provision on it, but can we put a line item in there saying that we are requiring review in 2 years?
I think we can internally document that, but since this is a code of the chapter of ordinances, I would recommend against it. But just like Supervisor Counter had brought this request to this committee about a year ago, and Ken and I made sure as soon as Christine told us population hit 100,000 that we got it on the agenda. So we can just table it and not officially table it, but mark it down that we'll address it again in 2 years.
Yeah, future agenda. We'll put it down as a future agenda item. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve the ordinance repealing and recreating Chapter 9, County Supervisory Districts and Nomination Papers signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion is approved unanimously. Number 11, discussion on amending the county board rules for remote attendance requirements. Corporation Counsel, I will turn this over to you.
Yes, I had briefly spoken with Vice Chair Fiedler about amending the virtual attendance section of the rules governing the Board of Supervisors. I think it is unclear currently how it's written, how a supervisor does appear virtually. I think some language needs to be added to the highlighted section, which would be number 7, Article 3, Section A7. Language such as virtual attendance means a supervisor appears at a meeting through audio and visual means. That's just a recommendation. We can use whatever language we want. I didn't want to be specific as the individual needs to use Teams or Zoom if we change that in the future, but this is the language that we utilize for court orders. Some of the judges are very strict that anybody that's appearing virtually must do so by audio and visual means, meaning we can see them visually through the Zoom or Teams, and you can hear them audibly through Zoom or Teams. I think that will address some of the current concerns that happened at the last county board meeting. Obviously, additional language can be added in the future too, but that would be somewhat of my recommended language to be added to that section.
Okay, since this is a discussion, I actually want to kick this off. So, because this was an item that I put on here. One thing would be that we should put in here is something that is clearly noted that when someone, because if someone's not in the meeting, they're announced that they're absent or they're excused. Once they enter the meeting, even if they're tardy, they should be announced that they are in the meeting, whether it's the clerk or whoever is the parliamentarian or whatever title we want to use, corporation counsel. Somebody needs to announce that they're here. We do also, I believe, and someone tell me if you disagree on this, it needs to be hard and fast that they are visually available and that they are audibly available as well. We have this at the library board that you have to have your camera on the entire time. That way, you can see that they're participating in the meeting. Yeah, even with TikTokers. Thank you, Ken. That was a great story. Another time for the public, perhaps. But those are a couple things that I think of. And then the other thing I had as an idea was that virtual attendance must be approved by the county board chair. Or the committee chair. It goes through the administrator or the county clerk in writing via email or some type of, I'd say via county email would be the proper way. That way, I've attended virtually from time to time, and it's a little loosey-goosey when you just, hey, Mr. Chairman, can I attend virtually? Yep, no problem. And then the administrator obliges. Well, there's no record of that if we have these in the rules. So those are just a few things that, because this was my agenda item, I wanted to bring up. So if there's any feedback on what I just said or what Corporation Counsel said, this is open for discussion. Does anyone want to be acknowledged? Supervisor Shirley.
I haven't quite figured out how we exactly say this, but how do we ensure that the supervisor is attending but in the meeting, that they can hear the discussion, like a time frame, like you have to be logged in by public comment in order to participate, or because the meeting in question that we had, it appeared to the public like he logged in for 2 minutes before, or a minute before, voted and left. So I think we want to get away from that appearance, or whether he was listening on a different device or not, and say, you have to be in here by this amount if you want to vote in this meeting.
I will, can I chime in on that? The only thing I would say is virtually or in person, if you're tardy, if you put restrictions on that, you could run into trouble. So for instance, there are some supervisors that are coming from work in the Twin Cities, they hit construction, they hit an accident, and all of a sudden they get here and they're 2 minutes late from that. I think if you restrict that, you're gonna run into issues where people aren't getting their votes. And you might run into a bigger issue of restricting representation for that district. So that's the only, like, I hate to disagree with my friend Ryan, Shirley, but, you know, Supervisor Shirley, I disagree with you.
Well, the only thing I would say is if we have a voting item, maybe they would have to be visually and audibly there in the meeting before discussion starts on that item.
And I can just explain, I think the issue with the last meeting was when you're watching it on the public website, there's a time delay. And so Supervisor Adams had a time delay in the votes coming up, listening on the public system. Instead of being in Teams, he would have been on time for his vote. So according to him, he was listening the whole time. He was hearing everything. It's just, it was delayed on the public system he was watching. So I can try to create some language and we'll see if that works. I don't have it off the top of my head right now, but I can try to develop something that would work to address the concerns that the county board has.
Supervisor Shirley still.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I would say that, you know, it's just ensuring that they are there for the full discussion of that action item. So if they log in after that item is done, then they're just gonna have to wait till the next item to vote on, is the way I would see it.
Okay, so what I think you're getting at is making it so that in the future, people can't just cherry pick a vote without participating in the democratic process that this board has. Okay, is that something that is like, can we restrict that?
Well, the only concern I have is we're treating people that are coming in person differently than we're treating people appearing virtually. And so if someone walks in 2 minutes before a vote is taken and they missed an hour and a half of the discussion, can that person that's here physically still vote even though they weren't involved? And so that's, yeah, I think it would have to be a voting rule, and I can research it further and let you guys know my thoughts, but that's my only concern. I just don't want to treat virtually and in person differently. I think if we fix this issue that they have to appear by audio and visual, we're going to fix the issue that we had at the county board meeting.
Okay, Supervisor Long.
Yeah, just to clarify, I'm certainly agreeable to all of this. I really am glad it's on the agenda because it's not that easy for the chair to have to make that call, and I know I didn't make a lot of people happy. So this is a good thing. The other thing that I wanted to mention, though, is do we want to add something about logging into the board portal for purposes of voting? All right, so if, I mean, you can be on Teams or whatever the app is, but are you going to just raise your hand like this or that? So I think logging into the board portal is also going to be a critical thing so that they can vote.
Yes, and I think the sentence
you
can
want to
be,
allow people to.
right, I agree. And
Sorry to disagree with Corporation Counsel, but so we have that technology contingency for people in the room where their device hasn't been working, and we've given them the chance to manually vote, and the clerk records their vote. So again, treating people online the same as in person. And then one clarification about what our technology capabilities are. The only one that sees when somebody enters, if they log in remotely like that, would be the clerk. She's the only one that would have noticed that he had joined on.
So what you're saying, Administrator Witt, is that we should have it where the county clerk announces that this person is now present.
And do you want that for both in-person people when
Yes.
they arrive late and
Yes.
virtual?
Yes, that we should have that. Yeah, Supervisor Shirley, go ahead.
Should we put on there that, I mean, we don't know what the technology is going to necessarily be, what software we're gonna use, but say that when they gain approval, they're required to enter and participate in the meeting with the software that, or whatever is approved at, I don't know how you wanna say that. Whether it's a Teams meeting or whatever it is at that moment, so that they're not, for one, that'll get away from that time delay if he's watching the public side versus the meeting side, and we know that they're actually in the meeting.
I can tell you that there is a section of the rules, it's page 205 of the PDF if Ken wants to try to look for it. It's the county clerk to act as clerk of county board. And there's a sentence in there that says the county clerk makes regular entries of the county board's resolutions and decisions upon all items and records the vote of each supervisor on any item submitted to the county board. We may be able to add language there. I'm just trying to think logically through this. If they're voting by hand, I mean, the clerk still has to record the vote no matter what, and that would be in the minutes that the county board approves at the next meeting. We might be able to add something there, whether it's through the board portal software or a raising of the hands. I mean, the county clerk needs to record the votes either way.
Yeah, another technique that I've used when I've done minutes is when an elected official comes or leaves early, I record it right in the minutes. It's wherever we're at in the discussion, I go Supervisor so-and-so joined the meeting or Supervisor so-and-so left the meeting. So you know, on the next vote, not to expect their vote. Okay, where did they go? They disappeared somewhere. So I always put it right in the minutes when I do it.
And I know County Clerk Hines does that too, because I watch, you know, when Mark Carsland came in yesterday, I said 5:09. And so she writes it down when people appear or when they leave. It's just not announced audibly to everyone, but she does document when people arrive and when people leave.
Should we have it where we have her announce if someone is no longer present in the meeting? I mean, would that be important as well? Or do you think it's more coming into the meeting? I mean, I think that the big issue is coming into the meeting. Right? I mean, that like all of a sudden they're there. Yeah. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts? Because this is a chance for Corporation Council to work on leaving and you know, coming to the meeting.
I think it's leaving and coming, because, you know, if we have a close vote, or if we have a supermajority vote, and you're going into the vote, and all of a sudden somebody's gone off the virtual meeting, now your numbers are different than what's required, so I think you need to record both.
Go ahead. Yeah, Supervisor Long concurs with that. And I agree too, because if the person virtually can't see that somebody left, that also is important. So I like the idea of both being present and then also if they leave early. Supervisor Counter?
So what do you do if somebody has to go to the bathroom?
They're still present.
Okay, but are you gonna report them out and report them in and?
I don't think that's necessary anyway, is it?
Hopefully, if everybody's picking up their stuff, then you know they're actually leaving. If
Yeah,
they're just walking to the bathroom.
Right, I'm just saying.
My goodness. Do not put T's and I's in front of Scott Counter. He'll dot them and cross them. Go ahead, Supervisor
We
Long.
can test the waters next month, because I'll be attending the board meeting virtually. So I'll play around with it and see how you guys react. No, I won't.
Okay, is there any further discussion on this topic? Any further discussion? All right, Corporation Council, I think do you have what you need to draft something to bring to us for review?
I do, and Supervisor Fiedler has also asked that we go through the rules thoroughly again, and so I might have a meeting with him, but then we'll bring it all at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the question is timing, because normally the county board rules say that March of every year.
We changed that
Did
last
we
time.
change that? Oh,
Yes.
never mind. It used to be March of every year. When we're done, we'll bring it forward.
Okay, we'll consider that business item finished. Thank you, everyone, for your input on that. I think this was a very thick agenda. I did not think we were going to be through it this fast. So does anyone talk Star Wars? No, I'm just kidding. All right. So actually, request for future agenda items. I've got one that I'm going to request myself for me to put on the next agenda is review the ordinance, have a review of that signature, goodness gracious, nomination signatures ordinance. I don't know what that's going to require, but I'm sure Corporation Counsel can come up with something that will work for us to review in 2 years. And then is there any other requests for future agenda items? Any other requests for future agenda items? Any other requests for future agenda items?
Chair Burning, just to clarify, so that's a future agenda item for next month or from 24 months from now?
No, for the next one to create something to force us to review it in 2 years.
Okay.
Right? That's what you
Right.
got.
I wrote to review in 2 years, August 2027.
Yeah, I don't, who knows if I'll be here or not, so we gotta take care of this now, right? Okay, so, announcements, any announcements? Anyone got any announcements?
Okay,
Corporation Counsel,
We need to clarify something with you, Supervisor Burning. Do you want a resolution that indicates that we will review this in 2 years, or are you fine with us, Ken and I, bringing it up in 2 years?
Just can only shower someone.
well, I think we want something that forces a review, so whatever that takes.
Okay. Resolution?
Probably a resolution then.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, so with that, any announcements, last call? Nope, all right, cool. Date of next meeting will be September 16th, 2025, and with that, we're adjourned at 6:16.